We're all familiar with the classic Book of Sacred Magic by Abramelin the Mage, the translation by MacGregor Mathers of the Golden Dawn. What turned out to be one of the most classic books in the occult world turned out to be in error. And by saying that it is an error, we are not saying that MacGregor Mathers did a bad job in his translation. In fact, he did an exceptional job in the translation. But as it turned out, the problem was that the source that he was referring to, the French manuscript, was indeed in error. It was incorrect or incomplete in many ways. The ceremony itself was much longer than what is presented in there. The process much longer, and there's actually 4 books and not 3. This was corrected sometime recently by Georg Dehn, and it was translated with the help of Stephen. So this is the book you want to get, right? This is one that you really want to get your hands on in copies. Now, this is just again with the kind of cover on, the nice protective sleeve. Let's take that off so we can see the book in its splendor. There we go. How beautiful is that? Okay, quite a quality piece of work. So this is, again, this is one of my must-haves in your collection. This is the expanded and revised 2nd edition of the work that goes in and fills a lot more additional information. And what this kind of gives us, and this is a fantastic piece because in the channel you'll see that there's an interview of N.D. Blackwood, who is the author of Dragogoten. Right, N.D., and depending on when you're watching this, is working on a new book, and I'm not going to say much about the new book that he's coming out with, but there is an indication of the vampire orders of Sigismund of Luxembourg, and there are records of Sigismund and Luxembourg inside of this piece, inside of this book, where where the actual records are shared, that we can see the actual relationship that Sigismund of Luxembourg had with Abraham von Worms. And that is such a beautiful connection that, the man that founded the Order of the Reversed Dragon, the order from which Vlad the Impaler, the Dracula, was influenced by this book. And this does lead to speculation among some that the French version is actually part of a corrupted version of this original text due to the vampire currents, which is quite an interesting piece. To its accuracy, I cannot speak, but it's interesting conversation, to have. So do check out that interview if you're interested. And I am planning another interview with Blackwood upon the release of that book, which is expected, I think, to hit the press later in 2022, the year 2022. So depending on when you watch this, it might already be out, so just have a check. But if not, go check out that other one. So here, again, what I really respect about the author is that they really do kind of pay homage where it is due. They do explore MacGregor Mathers' work, and they do really recognize his efforts in terms of everything. So just overview of the content, right? So we have 4 books. So the first one is really the biography. Firstly, Abraham von Worms is from the city of Worms. Abraham was a Jew inside of the city of Worms during the 1300s, right? That's the kind of time period where this was put to print. And the thing was written in the German at first because he wrote it for his son, but he didn't know his son. So he didn't know if his son actually spoke the high language. In other words, he didn't know if his son actually could speak Hebrew. So because of that, he didn't write it in Hebrew. He wrote it in German for his son to help him with those kind of translations as an inheritance, as a gift, so to speak, as well. And many scholars review this as one of the last true systems of magic. So then from the biography and the history, we go into the practical workshop, which is the mix in Kabbalah. And then in book 3, which is the concept of initiation. And that was that process of initiation, the working of the, what was later on known as the HGA, must have first been accomplished before the working of the squares. This is also an argument that some others have that, the squares itself wouldn't work, and it wouldn't even matter if some of them were hidden, because once the initiation was done correctly and the HGA was fully manifest, that the practitioner would still be able to unlock it, even if it was broken or dispersed in some way. The appendix is just in and of itself, the opening and the closing and the surrounding content is, in my opinion, some of the most interesting pieces, because it explores the editor's quest to finding this piece, how all of the transcripts, the discovery of the original manuscripts and everything came to him, how that translation works, the full investigation behind the identity of Abraham von Worms, from a full historical analysis, and even giving up the actual screens and prints and everything inside the book, so the reader themselves can even make some of their own analysis and judgments. Where was Abramelin's Hermitage? Where was that trading one? And then the spirit names comparison between different sources. So it's such a great piece, because it can really be, you can use it as a pure reference book, but you can use it and also make up your own mind in terms of what those translations should be. The Book of Abramelin, the true practice. Again, this is book 1, the reason for the inheritance, how I learned from the others. This is again from Abraham. Country and lands I visit is this journey through Egypt and every others. I find Abramelin, that kind of process of the discovery. Other masters I have found, the beginning of wisdom. God returns me to my people. Magical things I have done. Be careful of everything you do. What our fathers have been given, helping other people. Be careful about these two things. Great knowledge kind of piece there. Then book 2, for serious diseases, this is kind of like the casting of those things. For enemies of war, for friendship, marriages, love affairs, for birthing, against water, fire, tempest, ghosts, and devils, how to blast rocks, stones, cliffs, how to save houses and buildings in case of earthquakes and tempests, how to stand in front of the court and deal with high potentates in times of hunger and starvation, to make oneself invisible to one's enemies, the end of the second book of Abraham the Jew. And then we enter to book 3. What is genuine magic? What one should consider before beginning, the age and the qualities that you need. Most so-called magic books are fraudulent, no doubt. No special days for the sacred magic. The planetary hours and how most astrologers are in error. What one should do in the first 6 months when learning this art. So in other words, the whole process wasn't just 6 months. I think it was something like 4 cycles of 6 months. I stand to be corrected in that. What should be done in the second half of the year. How to behave in the third and final half of the year. So yes, it's a 2-year ceremony in actual fact, I believe. The art a person can study, practice, and do, which will not hinder the work. How to choose the location to call the spirits. How to prepare the accessories. How the person or magus should concentrate himself. The prayer room and the accessories. How the good spirits should be called. How the unredeemed spirits can be called and overcome. This was a requirement of the process. What one should request from the spirits, how to retire the spirits, how to answer questions and how to deal with requests, other things one should do regarding the spirits, the names of spirits you can call and how to call them, how to carry out the work. And then finally in book 4, which is really where the squares are, I'm not going to kind of go over all of these. I'll just kind of hit a few here. How you can discover all past and future things that are not directly against God's will. To have reports about all sorts of doubtful things. To prevent and remove all other magic. Travel in the air. To collapse walls and houses. To spring open all sorts of closed things and relock them without a key. And then moving into the last closing parts, to make all sorts of people in armor appear, to have the spirits perform all kinds of music, singing and juggling. And then again, as we mentioned, those parts of the appendix, the quest and the journey. This is, it's a cornerstone, right? It's another one of those, you must have this if you are a serious practitioner. even if it's just from a historical point of view, just to make sure you've got that, even if you're not going to be practicing this ritual in its entirety, in full. An absolute and total confession, I have not, so I make no claims to have done that. I know many who have done the French version with mixed results. This kind of gave me a better insight into why those results were mixed. But it's definitely one of those absolute beautiful pieces. Even just the cross-reference to the actual text and the translations and the meanings around that. Very, very powerful collection. One of those pieces that you're never going to regret buying. The entire definition of the structure and the hierarchy. And we had an earlier kind of chat where we were speaking about in another review when I was talking about Lucifer and the Hidden Demons by Theodore Rose. And this is also what they're referring to in the book when they say they only when the modern translations came out were they able to complete their systems. So this is where the references of their systems really has its origin point. And again, you can then, as a sorcerer, kind of make your own speculative decisions in terms of the practice and how to utilize it as you go forward. Okay, I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I'd like you to rather kind of get this yourself and make your own kind of judgments upon the seals instead of revealing those in a video format, for the entire internet to kind of explore. The Book of Abramelin by Abraham von Worms. Right, this is the new translation, which is pretty much a complete presentation from the extended manuscripts up unto and including the fourth book, which I don't think was actually included in the first edition, or at least not in this complete part, which at first I believe the authors thought wasn't necessary, and then when they reviewed, they realized it actually does have a lot of value. So definitely one to get. Enjoy.
I've always felt a little different, a little uneasy between regular folk, a bit of a dreamer, a lost cause, a little non-ordinary, some would say. I think I've always just been this way. My mother said I was special. My father thought I should be feared. But I knew that witchcraft coursed through my veins the first time I tasted the lips of the goddess inside the rain. Yes, I'm a witch, it's true. And sure, we are the ones who believe in the beauty of nature, who believe in the things science, absent of art, cannot explain, who instead of religion would have romance. And sure, you may think we have lost our way, when in the world of predictable things we have such unfamiliar things that we would like to say. But maybe in a world so cold and alone, a little unfamiliar is exactly what is needed to show us the way home.